And I'll be honest with you, mental toughness is not what a lot of people think it is. A lot of people think being mentally tough means you never struggle, you never get tired, you never doubt yourself, you never get frustrated. You just wake up every day locked in, motivated, disciplined, and ready to take on the world. But after 16 years in the Army, being stationed in different places, dealing with different leaders, different environments, different missions, different types of stress, I learned that mental toughness is not about never feeling pressure. It's about how you respond when pressure shows up. It's not about acting like nothing bothers you. It's about learning how to keep moving when things do bother you. Because the Army will teach you a lot. Some lessons you learn in the classroom, some lessons you learn in the field. Some lessons you learn standing in formation in the freezing cold, wondering why you joined. And some lessons you don't even realize you learned until years later when life hits you and you notice, man, I've been through worse than this. That's what I want to talk about today. What the Army taught me about mental toughness. Not the motivational poster version, not the fake tough guy version, the real version. The version that shows up when you're tired, uncomfortable, frustrated, under pressure, and still have to figure out how to get the job done. I've been in the Army for 16 years now, and over those years, I've been stationed in places that were completely different from each other. I've been in Alaska, I've been in Florida, and I'll tell you right now, I love both of them, but for completely different reasons. Florida gave me sunshine, heat, beaches, good weather, and a certain type of energy. You wake up, the sun is out, it feels easier to be in a good mood. You can go outside, enjoy the weather, and it feels like life is a little lighter. Alaska was a completely different type of beautiful. The views were amazing, the mountains, the snow, the quietness. It's hard to explain unless you've been there. But Alaska also tests you. The cold is different, the darkness is different, the distance from family can feel different, the isolation can feel different. And that's one thing the Army taught me early on. Your environment matters, but your mindset matters too. Because whether I was sweating in Florida or freezing in Alaska, the mission still had to happen. The Army does not stop because the weather is bad. The training does not stop because you're uncomfortable. Life does not pause because you don't feel like dealing with it that day. And that is one of the first lessons I learned about mental toughness. Lesson number one, mental toughness starts with accepting discomfort, not loving it, not pretending it feels good, accepting it. There's a difference. Some people think mentally tough people enjoy pain, stress, and struggle. I don't believe that. I don't think most people wake up excited to be cold, tired, wet, hungry, or stressed out. But mentally tough people understand that discomfort is part of the growth. In the Army, you learn pretty quickly that comfort is not guaranteed. You might be tired and still have to work. You might be cold and still have to move. You might be frustrated and still have to lead. You might be homesick and still have responsibilities. You might be dealing with your own problems, but people are still counting on you. And that's real life too. Life does not always wait until you are emotionally ready. Bills don't wait, family problems don't wait, career pressure doesn't wait, responsibilities don't wait, your goals don't wait. So, one of the biggest things the Army taught me was that I can be uncomfortable and still be capable. That right there is powerful because a lot of people quit the moment something becomes uncomfortable, not because they're weak, but because they interpret discomfort as a sign that something is wrong. But sometimes discomfort is just a part of the process. Sometimes being tired doesn't mean you should quit. Sometimes being nervous doesn't mean you're not ready. Sometimes being frustrated doesn't mean you're failing. Sometimes struggling just means you're being stretched. And when you start seeing discomfort that way, it changes the way you respond to it. You stop saying, I can't do this because it's hard. And you start saying, this is hard, but I can still do it. That's mental toughness. Lesson number two, resilience is built through repetition, not motivation. I say this a lot, but motivation is unreliable. There were plenty of days in the Army where I didn't feel motivated. I didn't feel motivated to wake up early. I didn't feel motivated to go to the field. I didn't feel motivated to work late. I didn't feel motivated to deal with certain situations. I didn't feel motivated to keep pushing when I was mentally drained. But the Army teaches you something whether you realize it or not. You don't need to feel motivated to take action. You need structure. You need standards. You need discipline. And you need repetition. Because the more you do hard things, the more your mind starts to realize, I can survive this. That's how resilience is built. It's not built in one big heroic moment. It's built in small, repeated moments where you choose to keep going. Every early morning, every long day, every time you have to adapt, every time the plan changed, every time something went wrong and you had to figure it out, every time you wanted to complain but still had to execute. That repetition changes you. It teaches your brain that discomfort is temporary. It teaches your body that it can keep going longer than you expected. It teaches your emotions that they do not always have to be in charge. And that applies to outside of the military too. You don't become confident by waiting until you feel confident. You become confident by repeatedly doing things that prove to yourself that you are capable. You don't become disciplined by waiting until you feel disciplined. You become disciplined by keeping small promises to yourself over and over again. You don't become resilient by avoiding stress. You become resilient by learning how to recover, adjust, and keep moving through stress. The Army taught me that resilience is not built when everything is easy. It is built when things are repetitive, inconvenient, and uncomfortable, and you keep showing up anyway. Lesson number 3: you learn who you are when things don't go your way. It is easy to be positive when everything is going right. It's easy to be patient when nobody is testing your patience. It's easy to be a good teammate when the mission is simple. It's easy to be motivated when the environment is perfect. But the real test comes when things fall apart. And in the Army, things will fall apart. The plan changes, the timeline changes, the weather changes, equipment breaks, people don't show up, communication gets messed up. Something that should have taken 1 hour takes 8. You get told one thing, then 5 minutes later, it changes again. And at first, that can frustrate you. But over time, you learn that frustration doesn't fix anything. You can be mad, but the problem is still there. You can complain, but the mission still has to get done. You can blame people, but the clock is still moving. So the question becomes, what are you going to do now? That question right there is where mental toughness lives. Not in what happened, not in what should have happened, but in what you decide to do next. That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control your next move. You might not control the environment, you might not control the people around you, you might not control the timeline, you might not control the setback, but you can control your attitude. You can control your effort. You can control your preparation. You can control whether you adapt or just sit there upset. And that doesn't mean you don't feel anything. It means you don't let your feelings completely take over your decision making. That is real mental toughness. It's not being emotionless, it's being able to feel the emotion and still make a responsible decision. Lesson number 4: mental toughness does not mean doing everything alone. This is a big one because a lot of people confuse toughness with isolation. They think, I'm tough, so I don't need anybody. But the Army teaches you the opposite. You learn quickly that nobody succeeds alone. You need a team. You need your battle buddies. You need leaders. You need mentors. You need people who are going to check you when you're wrong. You need people who help carry the weight when things get heavy. Some of the strongest people I met in the Army were not the people who acted like they had everything figured out. They were the people who knew when to ask for help. They were the people who could say, I'm good, but also had enough self awareness to know when they weren't. They were the people who took care of others, but also allowed others to take care of them when needed. That's something I think a lot of men, especially, need to hear. You are not weak because you need support. You are not weak because you're tired. You are not weak because you struggle mentally. You are human. And being mentally tough means being honest enough to know when you need to reset, talk to someone, get guidance, or lean on your own people. In the army, isolation can be dangerous. And in life, it can be dangerous too. Because when you keep everything inside, it starts to build pressure. And eventually, pressure has to go somewhere. So, mental toughness is not pretending you're okay all the time. Sometimes mental toughness is having the humility to say, I need help. Sometimes it is calling someone. Sometimes it is getting therapy. Sometimes it is taking a knee, catching your breath, and then getting back in the fight. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. Lesson number 5, standards matter more than feelings. This is one of those army lessons that sticks with you. In the military, standards are everything. Uniform standards, physical fitness standards, leadership standards, time standards, mission standards, accountability standards. And while it can be annoying sometimes, there's a reason standards matter. Standards give you something to fall back on when your feelings are all over the place, because feelings change. Some days you feel motivated, some days you don't. Some days you feel confident, some days you question everything. Some days you feel locked in, some days you feel like you're barely holding it together. But your standards can remain consistent. That is why having personal standards is so important. What kind of person are you trying to be? What do you expect from yourself? What are the non negotiables in your life? Because if you only do the right thing when you feel like it, your life will be inconsistent. But when you have standards, you have a guide. You may not feel like working out, but your standard says you take care of your body. You may not feel like studying, but your standard says you prepare for the future. You may not feel like being patient, but your standard says you don't disrespect people just because you're frustrated. You may not feel like showing up, but your standard says you keep your commitments. That's the kind of mental toughness that actually changes your life. Not loud toughness, quiet toughness. The type nobody sees. The type that happens when you choose discipline over excuses. Lesson number 6, your mindset can turn any place into a classroom. Like I said earlier, I loved Florida. I loved Alaska too. Two completely different places. Florida taught me one thing, Alaska taught me another. Florida reminded me how much environment can affect your mood, your energy, and your perspective. Being around the sun, being near the water, having that warm weather, it made certain things feel easier. But Alaska taught me that beauty and hardship can exist in the same place. You can be surrounded by amazing views and still feel isolated. You can be in a place people dream of visiting and still have hard days. You can love where you are and still be challenged by it. That's life. Sometimes the place you prayed for still comes with pressure. Sometimes the opportunity you wanted still comes with stress. Sometimes the blessing still requires endurance. And that's why your mindset matters. Because every environment will teach you something if you let it. Some places teach you gratitude. Some places teach you patience. Some places teach you discipline. Some places teach you how strong you are. Some places teach you what you value. Some places teach you what you never want to go back to. But either way, you learn. The army has moved me around enough to realize that growth is not always tied to comfort. Sometimes the place that stretches you the most is the place that develops you the most. And that is something I carry with me. Don't waste the season you're in just because it's uncomfortable. Ask yourself, what is this season trying to teach me? That question can change everything. Lesson number 7, resilience is recovery, not just endurance. This is something I think people get wrong. A lot of people think resilience means you just keep taking hits forever. But real resilience includes recovery. In the army, you learn to push through. That is part of the culture. Mission first, get it done, keep moving. And there's value in that. But over time, you also learn that you cannot run at 100% forever without maintenance. Vehicles need maintenance, equipment needs maintenance, weapons need maintenance, your body needs maintenance, your mind also needs maintenance. You cannot ignore yourself forever and call it toughness. Eventually, it catches up. So, yes, mental toughness is being able to push when needed, but it also means being smart enough to recover when you can. Sleep matters, fitness matters, nutrition matters, your relationships matter, your spiritual life, your emotional health, your mental health, all of that matters because you cannot pour from an empty cup forever. You cannot lead people well if you are constantly burned out. You cannot be present for your family if you never slow down enough to check on yourself. You cannot keep calling it discipline when it's really avoidance. Sometimes people stay busy because they don't want to deal with what's going on inside. And I say that with love because a lot of us have been there. Mental toughness requires self awareness. It requires asking yourself honest questions. Am I actually okay? Am I tired or am I burnt out? Am I pushing through something or am I ignoring something? Do I need discipline right now or do I need rest? That kind of honesty is part of resilience too. So when I think about what the Army taught me about mental toughness, I don't think about one single moment. I think about all the little moments that built it: the early mornings, the long days, the cold weather, the hot weather, the field problems, the moves, the people, the deployments, the missions, the frustration, the growth, the moments where I had to lead even when I was still learning, the moments where I had to adapt even when I didn't like the situation, the moments where I realized I was stronger than I thought, but also human enough to know I still needed people. That is mental toughness. It is not being perfect. It is not being emotionless. It is not pretending nothing hurts. Mental toughness is being able to say, this is hard, but I can handle hard. This is uncomfortable, but I can still move forward. This did not go my way, but I can adjust. I am tired and I know how to recover. I am struggling, but I do not have to struggle alone. That is the kind of resilience that actually lasts. And whether you are in the military or not, life is going to test you. Your career will test you. Your relationships will test you. Your goals will test you. Your failures will test you. Your own thoughts will test you. But the test is not always there to break you. Sometimes the test is there to show you what still needs to be developed. And that's the biggest thing I want you to take away from this video. Mental toughness is built. It is built through repetition. It is built through discomfort. It is built through discipline. It is built through support. It is built through recovery. It is built through every season that forced you to grow when quitting would have been easier. So don't look at your hard season like it's proof that you're weak. Look at it as training. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Because sometimes the lessons you learn in the hardest place becomes the strength you carry for the rest of your life. And after 16 years in the Army, from Alaska to Florida and everything in between, that's one thing I know for sure. Resilience is not about never being tested. It's about becoming the type of person who can be tested and still keep going. So if you're watching this and you're in a hard season right now, don't count yourself out. You may be tired, but you're not done. You may be uncomfortable, but you're still capable. You may be struggling, but you're still growing. And sometimes the strongest version of you is built in the season you want to avoid. If this video helped you, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And in the comments, let me know one thing life has taught you about resilience. I'll see you in the next one.